Good evening, folks. Welcome back to another stream with me, Fluent Code, here in the UK on Twitch and YouTube. Live on Twitch and YouTube. Yeah, I'm just checking that we are on both. We had a little bit of problems with this the other week, but thankfully we are up and running properly this time round. Sorry, while I just do a little bit of stuff that I should have already done. It's just taking a little while to set things up. So, what do we have in store for the stream tonight? Well, for one thing, I really should change the title of it, shouldn't I? Let's update titles. Hold on just a moment. Hopefully, fingers crossed, hopefully, maybe we'll see what happens here when we hit that. So I have just changed the stream title. We're still obviously on miniatures and models, but we are moving to a this second edition 40k. Now, as you can see, this is my incredibly well-used copy of Codex Eldar. It's a very old boy. It was second-hand when I got it, and it's now extremely second-hand. Now it's had all bits of tape and what have you added to it. But this is the backbone of the project that we are about to undertake. What I really need to do is I really need to get a camera that's a little bit more up, don't I? So that I can get the whole thing in one go. I wonder. No, I could try reorienting the camera, but I don't really want to. But I've had this book since I was 11 years old. Got this the first year of secondary school. I've had this book since I was 11 years old. So I have had this poor bedraggled copy of Codex Eldar for over 30 years. That gives you an idea about how old I am, unfortunately. It's seen many a fun session. It's had, it was a bit dog-eared when I got it, but it is now extremely long in the tooth. Now, I do actually have another copy of this book, but that one is pristine. And it sits there in pride of place on my shelf, and this is not going to get battered and beaten and what have you across the stream, as it were. So bear in mind, I'm not a complete cheapskate that's just going to have this gaffer tape one. I do have a decent copy as well. Now, I dug out the other day some of my old Eldar miniatures because the plan is to proceed with a second edition army. Now, I haven't done this on stream, well, any time. I've been incredibly lax. I haven't had a second edition army since second edition went away. However, my plan is to make a second edition army that, in theory, I might be able to use with the current rules. So, I'm going to do an Alatok army. Alatok is it's one of those forces that you don't often see that much. The rules, you see them all the time. But the plan is to take this battered, beaten up copy of Codex Eldar and turn it into a second edition Eldar army. So we have the models, we have the technology. We're sat here, we've got all the paints, we've got Look at this. We've even got like the willpower and the time and all the other things that you really need in order to create an army. And thankfully, due to the rather low-tech nature of these second edition miniatures, we should be able to create an army quite well, actually, quite quickly, quite cheaply, and go from there. Because I do have quite a large selection of Eldar miniatures, including some of the much older ones. Look, oh, look, he actually makes an appearance down here. Look, there he is. Fancy that. They actually printed these almost to scale. In fact, they 100% printed these pictures to scale. That's something that you probably wouldn't see too much these days. Anyway, so the idea is that we're going to plan out an army for Codex Eldar, and then we're going to build it, paint it, and show it off on stream, mostly via Discord and Instagram. But this is the plan. We are going to take some of these very old miniatures and put a nice modern splash and take on them. Looks like somebody's written something on there, but no, we're all right. Yeah, a Latok is my plan. Now, I'm actually going to cheat a little bit, and I'm not going to stick entirely to second edition. As far as the painting goes, as far as the miniatures goes, we are going to be 100% second edition models. We've got a little bit of everything here. We've got some dreadnoughts, which, although actually I say that, we've got some dreadnoughts here. These won't actually be used. Actually, that's a very good point, because I spotted this the other day. They are the old. That's the older gun. I didn't realise this the other day. Or is that the newer gun? See, that's a plasma cannon. That is the plasma cannon that came with the weapons platforms, and you can see it's a big chunky thing. I wonder, is this the one? Badger, haven't I just seen you? Haven't I just seen you, Badger? I'm just wondering, is that when they introduced the Star Cannon as a sort of lightweight plasma cannon? I don't know. I'm just trying to see what the difference is there. That's definitely the plasma cannon. That was the one that goes on here. It will fit on anything with this armature, but that's definitely a lighter weight version. I'm going to have to look up when this one came in, because I don't know whether this is the more up-to-date one or the older one. Because unfortunately my dreadnought here, I've just noticed this, my dreadnought here, I've got one which has got 2 decent arms, and I've got one. Hello Badger, how are you? Welcome back to the channel, welcome to the chat. I've got this one, which unfortunately is missing a finger. We can fix that. We can fix that, but it's the much older dreadnought arm. This is the Rogue Trader Eldar dreadnought arm. So unfortunately, I've got three later edition arms, and I've got one from the first model of the dreads. Now, technically, dreads aren't really, which is why I'm a bit curious about this gun. I'm going to have to look up what's happening with this gun. These dreadnoughts are actually not going to play a super part in this army. I am going to be doing them, but the problem with these dreadnoughts are they don't technically yeah, oddly enough, the handling them nowadays, it does leave a slightly weird feeling on your fingertips. But yeah, I mean, this is going to be quite a heavy metal exercise. No, I can't do jokes like that. I promised I would stop doing dad jokes on stream. I really must put it down. So the plan of the army is to do a citizen levy army, which is Guardians and Guardian adjacent. So I do have a couple of bigger dudes that we can include in that, like here somewhere, War Walkers. We have 2 of these. Thank you very much for the follow, Leo. It's very much appreciated. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the chat. I hope you're having a good evening, or whatever time of day it is for you. Dimart, thank you very much for the follow. Much appreciated. So I've got 2 of these War Walkers. Now this is a colour scheme that I was toying with, and I've decided that I actually hate it. Because this was done nice and thin with modern paints rather than my really old stuff, I am literally just going to re-undercoat it. Oh, absolutely. I very much appreciate it. Yeah. I'm literally just going to give this a... yes, they are very old models. Very, very old. Not quite as old as me, but getting there. I'm going to give this a spray undercoat, zenithal highlight, and then we'll start again. I just don't like the colour scheme that I went with. I thought, oh, I can do something quick and simple and easy, and then I've decided that I actually don't like that colour scheme. I would actually like to do a colour scheme out of the book. I'm going to slightly adapt this Alatok colour scheme here. In that they are going to have the later 3rd edition. Yeah, I mean that's Ulthwé here, the originals. They're going to get a weapon that is very similar to the Ulthwé one, but it's going to be bone-coloured weaponry with the bright yellow helmets. And then I'm actually going to adopt the 3rd edition onwards slightly camouflaged armour scheme as well. The base layer, the underlayer of each model, so the fabric will be plain blue, but then the armour panels will get a little stippling of camo on them, which I think will be quite easy to do. He said with all confidence and no proof. So yeah, eventually they will be quite easy to do after about 11 or 12 failed attempts. So we'll get there. Again, with the Guardian adjacent thing, we have a Falcon, fully 2nd edition compliant. The Falcon was released in 2nd, complete with its stupid little gun things here, and guns that almost stay in position. Look at that. Ah, wow. If I have to, if this becomes a bit too weak over time, I will just glue them, because that's, by the by. And then to just accompany that guy, we have an original fire prism as well. Now this one absolutely does not move about, but thankfully it's not been glued in an absolutely ridiculous position in the first place, so that's a bonus. It is very old stuff, As I say, the Fire Prism and the Falcon were both released towards the end of second edition Warhammer 40k, which is where I joined the hobby. So we have a Fire Prism, we have a Falcon, the Wave Serpent. While I have two of the models, unfortunately they weren't released in second edition. They were a third edition thing. I might allow myself just to use them, because unfortunately this boy, this one is a transport vehicle, but it will only actually take 6 models. So I have to think about that when we're creating the army. I want this to actually be a legitimate, legal second edition 40k army, with the possibility to use it in modern games as well. So I don't know quite how that's going to work, because I haven't seen a modern rule book, or I haven't seen a rule book in, I think the youngest rule book I have is now probably 10 years old plus. So, you know, we'll be going on a voyage of discovery as to what the hell the new rules are with very old models. This army is planned to be predominantly Guardians, so we also have Rangers, lots and lots of Rangers, because we're doing an Alatok army. So the plan is probably to have between 10 and 20 Rangers painted up. I mean, if you want to put me off, Leo, that is a great start. I might just abandon the modern stuff, and mind you, I don't need to learn all of that to play it, do I? I don't need to learn all of that to collect an army for it. It's just I probably won't actually play it. I never made it for a rule book since 6. Yeah, okay. Maybe we'll go one edition later, and we'll do 3rd edition, which is the greatest large scale 40k that they've ever made, as far as I can work out. And yes, Dim, there is going to be a large portion of metal figures in this. As you can appreciate, this box of stuff here is quite heavy. It actually weighs a good solid amount here. So we have lots of delicious lead. I mean, white metal probably. Some of this might actually be lead. No, I think most of this is probably going to be white metal. If there were some of the earlier Rogue Trader miniatures, although this guy is technically Rogue Trader, he is one of the very, very latest Rogue Trader miniatures that they did for the Eldar, or Space Elves as they were known. As I said, the Dreadnoughts and the Wraithguard that we have, because yes, we have Metal Wraithguard in there as well. They will not be part of the regular army, but we might do them as like a supplementary force, because they are technically Army of the Dead. So when I do fancy doing a supplementary force, that will be where they come into it. So we've got Dreadnoughts and Wraithguard. Did I say Wraithlord? I hope I didn't, because they should really be Dreadnoughts. And then we also have quite a large coven of Warlocks and Farseers. I say Farseers, we have one Farseer. This is probably my favourite second edition Eldar model. And as far as I can remember, I don't think he appeared in the Codex. I'm sure he didn't, actually. I'm almost certain he didn't appear in the Codex. No, he didn't. Chris Rose, welcome to the stream. Thank you very much. I appreciate the lurk. Yeah. No, the old bubble-headed Farseer didn't actually appear in the second edition Codex, but he is one of my favourite figures of all times. He's just such a simple sculpt, beautifully done. Jez Goodwin, yes, he might have done actually. Did he? Didn't he? Yes, he did. You're right. Right at the end, next to Eldrad. And unfortunately, the only warlock that I'm currently missing is this dude, which I will be sourcing one of these as well, and then I should have the whole collection. That's the plan anyway. So what we're going to do today is, in effect, we're going to have a look and see if we can come up with an army list, predominantly Guardians, Rangers, a few war machines like these, and then a leader, Cadre. Now, it's quite difficult in second edition to do smaller armies. They introduced some rules in White Dwarf, and was it chapter approved or something like that later on, that allowed you to do like smaller 500 point forces, because until they introduced those rules, you were kind of stuck with either having to spend 300 points on an avatar, or having to spend 170 points on a Farseer, because they were the only two characters that could lead your army. Which, as you can appreciate, if you wanted to do something smaller like a 500 point battle, having to spend 170 points on a Farseer is quite a lot of that reserve. And so they introduced some rules later on where smaller characters could lead smaller armies. So we'll have to decide on a points limit that we're going to go for. I am not certain yet what that will be, whether that will be 500 points, 1,000 points, 1,500, 2,000. We'll work something out. But we do have a big old box of models there to actually do it with. So that will be our goal for this session, is to come up with an army list for a predominantly Guardian orientated force. So I think the best place to start would be with a leader, and I actually quite like the idea of the army being led by a Farseer, because we'll just knocking the camera about. Good old book, good old actual physical books and stuff. Now, our main character is probably going to be this guy, the Farseer. He does fit the bill for a citizen levy, because although these guys follow the witch path, warlocks and what have you do sort of maintain a presence on the citizenry of the craft worlds. So our leader is going to be a Farseer. Now, he's just a stunning miniature. I do love that miniature. I do have a couple of copies of Eldrad Ulthran, the only other Farseer that was done, the only other Farseer model that was done around this time, but I don't like him as much. I haven't put a huge amount of planning into this, because I am now thinking about where the hell do I make a note of what I'm planning to include in the army. And no, that's not what I was looking for. Where's the where the hell is the office apps? I need to actually make a note of what we're going to do in our army. So I'm just going to open this up here, and then I can make a couple of little notes. So we are going to go for a Farseer at 170. In fact, why am I doing this? What I need to do, don't save that. I do hope I've got Excel. Of course I don't. No, of course I don't. So that's a big fail on my new recruit. Okay, I will take that as a recommend. New, very much appreciate that. Right, let's have a look at that. Ooh, that's interesting. Amazing, what a great little thing that is. Now, does it work? Let's have a look. Create list. Codex Elder. Oh, look at this. We will call it Citizen Levy Cost Limits. I have no idea what that means. Yes, Lucian, we are building. Oh, wow, that is incredible. And I don't need a keyboard, so yay, screen real estate. Right. We are going to add in a Farseer as our main character. 170/85. What? Right, and then now this is the other bit where things get quite interesting when you're building small thematic armies in 2nd edition. Now, just over here, you will notice a couple of characters that haven't actually made it too far into later editions of the game. Although I say that, they might have done, and I've just not been paying attention for the last 10 years because I'm stuck in the past. Exodite Lords and Pirate Captains. Now, effectively, this one book gave you... Exodites literally never showed up again. This one book actually gave you the ability to build four separate armies out of one codex, and those armies are as follows. You've got your standard Craftworld army list with everything that you see in the book, so you can literally build it as you had, you know, all of these pictures here of Guardians and Aspect Warriors and Phoenix Lords and stuff. You also had the option of Exodites. Now, these are kind of mini lists like you got in the Chaos and the Nid codexes, where you could have Genestealer cults, stuff like that. Badger, wow. appreciate that, man. That's it wasn't called for, but thank you very much. So you had Exodites, pirate captains, and then the fourth list is as you keep going. See, look, you've got Dragon Knights, pirates. As you keep going, you find this section right at the back for Harlequins. Oh, now these guys are kind of these are pretty much the only supplemental lists that have survived their way through to current 40k, as far as I know. And to be fair, that's not entirely without merit, because they are incredible models. They're so thematic. That's fine, man. I really appreciate it. A Lurk is as good as anybody else. So we have Harlequin squads, Great Harlequins, Death Jesters, Solitaires, Shadow Seers. So in effect, you have a miniature army list with your characters, your heavy support with your Death Jesters, and your squads with your Harlequins. So there are mini lists. Now, because I'm thinking about doing a citizen levy, no problem, Badger. Hopefully we catch you before the end of the stream. We'll be finishing around 10 o'clock as usual. But take care, enjoy your food, see you later. Because we are planning to do a citizen levy, we can get very close to that and still build theme by including things like pirates. A Latok is actually quite a good army for that, because it does have quite a lot of rangers and renegades who can't stick to the path, basically. So yeah, quite a good army for that option. Dragon Knights not so much, but it does mean that we could include some pirate captains as well, which is quite a nice option. And some of these older Guardian sort of character models do make quite nice pirate captains. So we've got guys like this. We've got the Proto Dire Avengers like this, which obviously these need stripping and what have you. That guy, I think, has actually... I think he had a power sword originally, and somebody's cut that off and changed it for a chainsword, which I don't actually hate. It actually looks quite nice on the model, but you know, if we wanted a chainsaw, we've got guys like this. These Guardian characters are really, really nice. So yeah, we've got some options there for these lovely metal Guardian characters. These guys were actually all named in Rogue Trader when they were first released. They all actually had their own names, but that hasn't filtered through into the no, that's not a... Well, this guy, that's not a Scorpion. That's it's listed as a Guardian, but that was when they were prototyping the Dire Avengers. So they did a bunch of these guys who had these sort of weird helms that ended up just listed as Guardians, and then they did the actual Dire Avenger models. But they're really nice characterful models to lead Guardian squads, and they could all very well represent a pirate captain, for example. So we've got plenty of options there for character models. Back when all swords could parry, has there ever been a time where all swords can't parry? Because if there has been, I don't want to hear about it. Maybe we will just avoid the whole making an army ready for modern editions, because I feel like there's absolutely no point in making an army where swords can't parry. Yeah, I get it now. Now they can't. Right, so we have our leader, and then we need to turn to squads. And unfortunately, we do just have, yes, third edition. I actually really like third edition. It is a very it's a rules sharp model of the game. So all of the rules are very concise. In this, so for example, I'll give you an example. Here you see an A4 and a half pages of rules just for a weapon that that appeared on one model. You could technically mount a D cannon on other thing, but you've got a page and a half of rules there for a distort cannon, which very much didn't often feature. I mean, there's a full A4 page of rules there for something they never made a model for. They didn't make a model for the Vibro Cannon until third edition, at which point they completely changed the rules. This no longer appeared on a little weapons platform. And yeah, so, but what I mean is that, yeah, but building your own Vibro Cannon, I mean, I used a rule plug stuck on the end of a scatter laser, which I don't think I have anymore. It actually looked quite good, but the Vibro Cannon became a support weapon. They made a model for it. I hated it. It was a huge, great thing. The crewmen for it were a bit gangly and spindly, but that was the new style of the Eldar. But second edition had loads and loads of rules for for models that they didn't even make. Third edition, it became the start of, here are rules for models that we make, and that is the entirety of the rules, and they explained the rules really concisely. So the rules for a Vibro Cannon would take up that amount of space and no more. So I do really admire what they did with third edition. They made it quicker, and yes, it became more abstract, but only became more abstract because it kind of had to, in order to condense those rules down. So I really like third edition. I think it is a very good, strong game system. After third edition, I think that's where it all started to fall apart. So we have Guardian squads. We're going to add in a Guardian squad. Now, this is back when you can have, I don't know what it is now, whether you can switch and change up between number of models. But in this, I believe you can add in, can you add in or modify? Oh, no. Yes, I mean, he's listed as a Guardian in most of the catalogues, but the idea, and Jez Goodwin has stated that they were a proto Dire Avenger. They were the very first sort of models. But yes, that he used to have a power sword, and I can just see where it's been cut off there. And I believe that is plastic chainsword from the base Guardian box. Sorry, it's not focused very well, but you can just see where that's been cut off there and changed. But I haven't got round to stripping this from when I bought it off of eBay. But yes, he could very easily blend in with a squad of Striking Scorpions. He's got the same sort of top knot that they had. Unfortunately, he has got a Shuriken catapult strapped to his back, so he'd have to probably be an Exarch in order to give him additional weapons. Now, is there a way? Ah, yes, you can. You can increase the number of Guardians in a squad up to 10. Great. So, we've easily got 10 Guardians, and we are going to add in... Oh. There isn't an option. No, that's right. I believe you had to... Yes, you did. That's right, yeah. So I was also looking at this about how to include the heavy weapons platforms. You have to, just to confuse things, you have to pick your heavy weapons from the support section, and they're not actually attached to the squads of Guardians. So you can use them as a separate battery if you wanted to. So you can put all of your scatter lasers in one place. You can, you know, move them up the battlefield, but yeah, I'll have to see about what we add in there. So I think what we're going to do into our thing is we're going to add another squad of 10 Guardians. Where are we at now? That gets us to 390 points. No problem, Leo. Very much appreciate the lurk. And then let's have a look at scouts. So we're going to add a scout squad as well. And in fact, that puts us at 505 points. Might add another scout squad. So let's add another scout squad. That gets us 20 Guardians, 10 Scouts and a Farseer. It's probably time to start putting in a couple of anti-grav weapon platforms. Hold on. Ah, yes, very good point. So they have actually put a limit on the number of anti-grav platforms. Good. I knew I was missing something about how they were tied to the squads. So we can add in a couple of anti-grav platforms. I don't want D cannons though. Let's add in one scatter laser and I suppose we could add a D cannon. Let's leave one with a D cannon. That would be quite a surprise to a lot of people. So we're getting there slowly. We've easily got enough of our squads set, because there is a lovely little limit on how to make your army fair. So we've not got any force organisation charts or anything like that. It is simply a section where it says you can spend up to half the value of your army on characters. You must spend a quarter of your points at least on squads, and the rest of it can be split up anything you like. Maximum 50% support, 50% Harlequins. If you only take Harlequins, you can do 100% of your army. So that is a very nice option. We are going to take one of our Guardian squads with Shuriken catapults, because that's a very nice little option. It does seem like we are heading towards 1,000 points for our first go at this army list. Now, I'm going to add in an Eldar Warwalker with twin scatter lasers, and that now puts us at 914 points. What else can we play with on here? I don't think there's an awful lot else that we can put in if we're going for 1,000 points. I could put a Warlock in. That would be interesting. Okay, and then that allows me to put a couple of points worth of It is an absolutely beautiful Codex cover. I think they've made a model very similar to this. I know on Facebook the other day I saw somebody had started painting a model that looks very, very similar to this, which was kind of stunning, really. They had done a really, really nice job on it. So let's just change this to okay, now hopefully you guys can get the gist of this. We're at 965 points. We have a Farseer and a Warlock. Made a diorama. Oh, okay, that's very cool. Yeah, because not being funny, but Hawks and Fire Dragons were probably fairly low on most people's choice of aspect wise. I adored Hawks. I thought they were incredible, but Fire Dragons were a little bit of a crapshoot, really. It's like there are better anti-tank delivery systems rather than just running some very squishy models up to a tank. So we have a Farseer and a Warlock as our characters. We have 2 Scout squads and 2 Guardian squads, one armed with las guns, one armed with shuriken catapults, and then we've got 2 anti-grav weapon platforms and a War Walker. So let's just see if we can put those items here on the table. So we have a War Walker. That's our main guy. We have a Warlock. We have a choice of various, a Farseer and a Warlock. Yes, Gene Stealers were absolutely the exception to the rule about should you or shouldn't you charge a tank, because the answer with Gene Stealers was always yes, you bloody should. You should charge anything you can possibly get your hands on. So we have I actually have a, it might be a little bit of a shame to paint over these guys, but I'm not a fan of the colour scheme, so I will be repainting them. It just depends on whether I repaint them right now or not. Sorry if I'm leaning over here, so my mic might not be picking it up. The resulting explosion won the game for the Eldar since my mini stepped on the table. Yes, and Gene Stealers were quite expensive as well, so there is that. So let's have a look. We have 9. Better add 1 more there. Okay. Then we've got sorry guys, I appreciate that this is maybe not the most enthralling of streams while I sort and mix and mash my way through these models, just to see if we can build ourselves a nice little army here. So we have where are we getting to? I'm just trying to build this army out so that we can actually step back and have a look at what is going to be required to paint. Let's have a look. Now, whilst I appreciate that the plastic monopose Guardians are not necessarily the most popular, they did have quite a few of. I have got quite a few of these, which have the Shuriken catapult upgrade. Luckily, I have also got a fair few of these, which are the original lasgun armed ones. And then I think it was right at the start of 3rd edition, they released this box set with a little. These are actually metal weapons that they added in. So they added in a little bag of these, and then because lasguns became not a thing for the Eldar anymore, you could, after 3rd edition, you could no longer have lasgun equipped Guardians, which I thought was a little bit sad, but them's the breaks. Now, where are we? I need to stop doing that, and I need to just get the box here, and then I can have a little root through it properly. Right, here we go. So we've got 4. So we need a las cannon. We have a las cannon. We might need to magnetise that. It was a bit samey, but at the same time, it did also mean that there wasn't an awful lot of stressing about rules, because everyone knew what the rules for a las gun were. It doesn't necessarily work nowadays if you know, think about, oh, I want all of our armies to be different. Yeah, it doesn't stand the test of time, unfortunately. Right, so we have 5. I do need to find a head for this one. That one was intended to be a conversion with the later Guardian head, very much like this one, who I did because I've got multiple copies of that model, and it was just quite nice to actually change it up and do a slightly different head. And I also did the same on this one as well, which, yes, it's not strictly 2nd edition, but I will take that little loss for the team in order to field a little bit of variety when it comes to the models. Right, have we got a crewman? Nearly there. You know how sometimes you just go miniature blind? Because I'm literally sat here and thinking, I've seen that model like 4 times already, and I do think I have seen him already, but I now can't find him. Yo! No, thank you. Right, there. Sorry about that. That is the other crewman. And I need one more. I need one more scout, of which I've got a load in here. There's no worries about that. I just I was looking for a specific one. Right, there we go. And another squad of Guardians as well, which we do have right here, ready and waiting. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Plus him. Come on, move them all in. I need to fish out my D cannon as well from somewhere. Okay, so this feels a bit clumsy, and it has been a little bit. I do apologise for that, but trust the process, as I'm sure some of you are just saying. Just get on with it. So we have 20 Guardians, 10 Rangers, a Farseer, a Warlock, a War Walker, and 2 weapons platforms. It is a Guardian Citizen Levy army. They're all Guardian adjacent models. I'm pretty happy that that fulfills our list. We do have another 35 points to spend on war gear if we absolutely want to. Oh my, there is war gear as well on this that you can add on. So yeah, we have some options there. I'm going to be looking forward to doing this actually. I think this should be quite handy to do. Right. There we go. So that is our army. What is the plan for painting them? So as I said, I want to do them in an Alatoc colour scheme. I think my options are, I don't particularly want to be stripping them all, especially as a lot of what I'm planning for paint wise is going to be quite thin paint anyway. I'm planning to do a little bit of contrast. So we have quite a few models here that have some lovely textures on them that really will be quite nice for contrast paint. The plan is to spray these black, spray them from above with a grey Zenithal Prime. Everything will be dry brushed, and yes, it sounds a lot like we're going down the route of Slapshot, but bear with me, trust the process. The whole model will be painted in a slightly lighter blue, and then I will use sponge to stipple on camouflage onto the armor panels, trying to leave the undersuit that comes with these models. So Eldar were quite famous for their undersuit, trying to leave that in the original sort of blue color. Yeah, that's true enough. I mean, I've had relative success with doing the sort of slightly simpler D&D miniatures in that sort of process. They have come out quite nice, quite vibrant. Although you're very right with second edition models, they do benefit from quite a lot of vibrancy. You know, if you look in the codex, which now I can't because I've put everything in the way of it. Everything is incredibly bright, incredibly in your face. So yeah, you might actually be right there. Perhaps the not chaos. Not chaos. Oh, of course, yeah. Chaos works. Yep. Yeah. but most everything else was always pretty vibrant. I do wonder perhaps about the Wraithbone. Wraithbone isn't a bad colour. I think what I might have to do, and I have got, they never had a red era. There were certain parts of Chaos that certainly sort of came in on the red era. Yeah, what I might actually do is I might, let's have a quick look. Let's have a quick look and just see, because, you know, we have the technology. We can have a look and see how these come out with a little bit of, so you just using the Wraithbone and then hitting them with a blue, Ultramarines blue, in fact, and see how they come along. Now, I won't do this once they're painted, because, you know, it's kind of heresy, but there we go. Don't report me to the second edition police, because I know those guys are out there and they're watching all the time. Everyone's watching. Right, all I'm going to do is see how this look. That's probably too dark for what I was planning. Is there a lighter blue in the range? I think I'd probably have to go down to something like Gryph-Charger to get a much lighter blue in the contrast range. It might just be a case that we actually have to look at painting these the old-fashioned way, which is fine. I can remember how my paintbrush used to work before the advent of contrast paints. Just about. I can just about remember it. But let's see how this colour looks on the model before we give up on it. Now, the only thing I'm being quite cautious about not painting is the helmet, because I want to try and keep that clear of everything and then paint it last in the yellow. Now, I don't know. Blue, bone and yellow. Yeah, that's right. So blue for the armour, yellow for the helmet, bone coloured for the weaponry. Which will almost sort of tie in the 3rd edition Alatok colour scheme, which did feature the bone white quite predominantly, and also on quite a lot of their vehicles as well, which I actually very much like the bone white colour when used on Eldar models, because I think it very much represents the idea of Wraithbone quite nicely. I know that we're not tied that just because it includes bone in the name it has to be, you know, sort of regular old bone coloured, but I think that it really brings across that idea that Eldar, in a very almost Tyranid kind of way, happen to sort of grow their weaponry. It's all created by the craft world and sung into shape. So we'll just see if we can get a coat of this blue on. I'm not sold on the colour just yet. I know it's hard to believe, but I think that's a bit too... It's a bit bland, to be honest with you. It's not got the sort of punch that I'm hoping for. So, how do we correct that? Well, probably it will be a case of seeing what blue paints we have and actually painting it up with regular paint. I often tend to do this where I will sort of put a base coat down of contrast in which to guide the rest of your painting. There you go, get in there and there. Okay, what are we thinking of that blue? That's quite dark. Certainly not the sort of bright, vibrant tone that we were looking for. However, yeah, we could thin the blue. We could thin the blue. Let's have a quick look at that, shall we? So we're thinking if we thin the blue, we'll come up with a slightly more vibrant colour. Is that the idea? That the wraithbone colour beneath it will show through a bit more? So let's pop that one to one side. I do actually have a ton more of these tucked away in the box, so this is fine for an experiment. So this is thinned 3 and 1. Yeah, they do mix quite well, so I don't think there'll be too much of a problem. Oh, are you saying about... Right, so you've got experience with speed paints from Army Painter. Okay, yeah. I have been thinking about getting a set of those, but I'm like, yeah, spending extra money and what have you would... is not actually on the agenda at the moment. I've already made far too many bad decisions when it comes to money this month, so you know. So that is a lot lighter. Really? I've not found it particularly difficult to control. if anything, I've found it probably the most controllable paint that I've ever used because it's so thin. And you can, in effect, use it as almost sort of a regular paint in places by tailoring how you apply it. I mean, I'm not trying to teach you how to paint. It sounds like you are more than familiar with how to paint. It's just that in my experience, I found it incredibly. Now that is a big plus for the Army Painter product. I cannot believe that Games Workshop are still insisting that their customers suffer through the trauma of using capped, pop cap, flip open cap bottles in this day and age. It's like it's 2025 and you're still basically insisting that we use 1980s bottle caps. The proof is right here. That's a flip cap from the 1980s. I think the dark blue would go well with Baharoth. So yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, I can fully see where you're coming from. I tend to believe that most big companies are too stupid for full-blown conspiracy theories like that, but I have had prior experience of Games Workshop and their business models and plans, so perhaps you could be right. I do quite like that thinned blue, but however, I'm not sure I want to paint an entire army which is going to consist of 30 or 40 guys with a thinned recipe that has to be mixed up. So unless I was to get and pre-mix up a bunch of paint. AWOL Trooper, hi there. In that case, yes, yeah, fair enough. Oh well, it's not like Games Workshop could become any more evil in my estimation, so yeah. Games Workshop, I came to an acceptance quite some time ago, mostly based on the fact that I'm still fully nestled in the past. That Games Workshop and I had parted ways amicably. Ways, but I don't want to give them any ideas. Yeah, I mean, full-on child sacrifice, things like that. There are methods that they could use to increase their evilness, but there's one other option when it comes to vibrancy that I think might be an option. This is powerful stuff, folks, and I urge you to use it with caution. In fact, I think this is going to look absolutely awful, but ooh, crikey. It's, he who dares wins, Rodney. He who dares. Let's have a look. Let's see if Talassar Blue comes out looking any better than the others. Oh, that's strong stuff. This is going to be probably fairly noticeably terrible. Let's have a look. Well, there's vibrant, and then there's whatever the hell this is. I'm not 100% hating it. It would certainly sort of keep in with that second edition sort of vibe. And you'll never lose a Mini on the battlefield. You know, you never lose track of where it is, because I mean, there's this sort of radioactive glow about it. I'm not hating it, to be honest with you, and this is actually a far better colour than I anticipated it would be. I'd have to be quite careful in order to stop any puddling, because where it does look like it's puddling, it looks like it's going to stain quite badly. You know, the sort of coffee stain type effect, but otherwise that is actually a really, really powerful colour, which is exactly what I was after for a sort of second edition feel. This is almost quite period correct for a really bright, yeah, like that. Yes, yeah, that's possibly what I was thinking about doing. However, remember I said that I was going to look at camouflage on the armor panels. What I might do is leave this as is, obviously try and get in all of the model to, you know, colour in the bits that you will be able to see, and then use the darker blue. And I've actually got a couple of options for darker blue. slightly random, but you know, never mind. You go find yourself some socks. Hopefully by the time you've done that, we'll be finished with this guy. And yeah, I'm really liking that. Well, now that's a turn up for the books, because I didn't think that that blue was ever really going to come in useful. I've got one more option, which no, I'm not going to do that. That's silly. I'm not going to do that. I was thinking about mixing some of this lighter blue with some of the dark blue, but then what did I just say about not wanting to have to mix paint? So how are we looking here? Just bear with me 1 second, guys, actually, because I just need to do something. Hold on 1 moment. So we have three sort of options here. We have quite a dark blue, which is going to need a considerable amount of highlighting up before it becomes nice and bright and light. We're having a look at painting these with a slight camouflage pattern. This would need highlighting up to get the brightness up, and then we would need to camouflage it, which I don't much like the idea of doing. This, whilst I actually quite like the paleness of it, I quite like the effect that this has come across. It's too pale. Now this was a 3-in-1 dilution, so we could bump that ratio a little bit. We could go more 2-in-1, 1-in-1 to the thinner, because they do a medium that I'm thinning it with. And then we've got this, which is a colour I honestly never thought I would find a use for, but wow, is that a powerful colour. Now, just for argument's sake, just for argument's sake, it's not 100%, but that's got some good colour. Just oh. Yeah, 100%. You won't hear me argue too much with that. Now, this is what I wanted to explore, which was in 2nd edition. Oh God, I can barely move. I'm covering up my hobby space. Something chronic here. In 2nd edition, this in 3rd edition, this is all that Alatok was allowed to have. Basically, they got this tiny little box out inside the Eldar Codex. Now, I don't actually have Codex Craftworld Eldar from 3rd edition, which is where they expanded on each of these Craftworlds. So I'm thinking that with a very thinned wash of the darker colour would actually look pretty spot on. It's got that punch and that vibrancy, I might even use it as more of a shade, so just to hit the low points rather than all over. And then I think that is going to be our colour scheme, which would be really nice because it's relatively simple. So Talassar blue it is. Decision is made for Talassar blue. What I do also need to work out though is what we're going to put on the helmets. Now there are two main options for that, and those options are Nazdreg yellow and Iyanden yellow. And I think, to be brutally honest with you, Nazdreg yellow is going to be too dark right from the off, so we're going to pop that to one side and we're going to try Iyanden yellow. Keep it simple, stupid. That's what I've always been taught. So it's got an Eldar name. It must be the right colour. So let's go for it. Let's try it. Oh, go on, you can go in. That's it. Oh, it's punchy. We left some yellow, some blue on there. Never mind. So ignore that bit. Ignore the massive mistake and where it's bleeding through. But that there, if I just left it at that, that there is a Latok Guardian. I mean, I'm not going to just leave it there. It's going to get a little bit more work done to it. But yeah, I'm quite pleased with that. Cool. So what's the plan for the armor from this point onwards? So the armor needs tell you what, while we're at it, let's just open the Nazdreg just to prove that we are on the right track with the Iyanden colour. Let's do it on this one. Yeah, so it's a lovely yellow colour, but it's a lot darker, a lot more muted, and I think we're actually going for that really bright, in-your-face yellow. Actually, I don't hate that. I'm a long way from hating that. That's kind of interesting because those two yellows are very, very similar, aren't they? And that is two separate yellow paints, and they are coming out super similar. And honestly, I actually think I possibly prefer the Nazdreg yellow. Now I need to paint the Nazdreg on one that I've painted Talassar blue. Oh dear. Do I? Don't I? It's quite hard to tell. I am struggling to work out which one of those I prefer. Just have a I actually don't know. I don't know which one of those yellows is going to go better. I'm just trying to compare how that yellow is going to look with the Talassar blue, because that's the blue that we're going with, not this ultramarine one. We're going to use the ultramarine one on that to create like a stipple effect, but I'm just trying to work out which yellow I prefer, and I can't actually call it, so I'm going to have to paint another. I'm going to have to paint another Guardian in the blue and then compare the helms. It's a good job we kind of have disposable Guardians. We've got a bunch of these boys here ready and prepped and primed, and then there's the question of whether or not we continue to use the Wraithbone as a as an undercoat, whether or not we choose to mix it up with Zenithals or not. I apologise, I think you're getting a little bit of a bleed through from the background music, which I hope isn't interfering with the stream too much. Possibly. Right. So we're going to go back to our blue. This is actually a pretty good tester session where we're experimenting with these colours. We'll see which one suits us best. We've got another model there. Whack another variant of Talassar blue down. Good old vibrant boy here. Go and now what I'm going to do this time is I am going to actually let this one dry. So we this might be the last one that we can actually get round to doing. Contrast paint can take a little while to dry, so where it's sitting quite heavy around his neck there, that's why we got that bleed through. It's a bit of a shame, but it is just one of our tester models. That is a stunning colour, isn't it? Look at that. I mean, I am half tempted, but they don't need an awful lot more doing to after that to call them done. I am still tempted to do the camo because I think it's a sort of, it does slightly modernise the ones that were in the 2nd edition codex. But then the 2nd edition codex literally had one model from Alatok and that was it. I'm not even sure that in 2nd edition that the individual craft worlds, apart from Ulthuan maybe, actually had any real lore going for them. I think the lore came along afterwards for most of the craft worlds. You know, like Eandon having no, I think Eandon had been ravaged by the Nids, in second, but other than that, I don't recall an awful lot of maybe there was. I think Biel-Tan was still Swordwind. All three were, I mean, emo weirdos, but I'd have to double check my codex in the back. I mean, I've got it sat right there. Check your Discord. Oh, hang on. I will check my Discord. What are you Discording? Ah, is that from the Codex Craft Worlds? Because I know they did a supplement at the sort of, was it the end of 3rd edition? I might have it, to be honest with you, but it's certainly not with the other one on the shelf, so I'd have to go and double check. But if that is the page out from Craftworld Eldar, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that, because I'd have been hunting around for that for ages. So that is really, really handy for me. I don't think we're far off on the base colour of the blue. I think the base colour of the blue is actually really, really close. And then we can darken it down, like you suggested, with a shade of the Ultramarines blue, whether that be stippled onto the armour for camouflage, or whether that be shaded on in certain areas, just to darken those areas down a bit. I think that would work quite nicely. But yeah, really, Leo, thank you very much for that. That's really, really handy. Saves me having to look for it. And to anyone who's unsure what we're talking about, do apologise. It's this, the lovely box out from Craftworld Eldar, where the Alatok Craftworlds are gone into a little bit more detail, so that's really, really handy. I'm going to let this one dry off a little bit before I put the other yellow on that one, because I am just looking at it now. I am quite liking that yellow there. I think that's quite a nice colour. But that one is a bit brighter. I think that one is probably closer to the one in the book. We'll wait until this one dries. We'll try it out on him. So we have got a nice little selection of tester models there. While that one is Majar, welcome back to the stream. It's lovely to see you again. How have you been? We are experimenting. We are experimenting with plastic guardians. Well, plastic and metal. These guys are actually a little bit of a hybrid. As we have now just decided to get started on my 2nd edition project, which is my 2nd edition Eldar Citizen Levy army. basically means a bunch of Guardians, a bunch of Rangers, and a Warlock and a Farseer to lead them. Oh, you're driving, are you? Wow, okay. I wouldn't ever have thought to tune into Twitch while driving, but appreciate the effort, my man. So, you're doing well. Excellent. What have you been up to? Because it has been a little while since you've been in the chat. So yeah, if you've got any, oh, of course you can't type, but I'll stop prompting you to type while you're driving. So right. So that is going to be a nice simple gun. I mean, it's too simple, really. That's almost cheating. Maybe the naysayers about contrast were right. That is pretty much cheat mode, isn't it? Look at that. This one does dry a lot faster than the other. So that's the basics of what we're looking to achieve. There'll be a few other colours. There'll be some gemstones. There'll be some, you know, camo cloaks, things like that. Those the scouts on that that page are absolutely amazing. Let me just pull that up. Yeah, those scouts are fantastic. Look at them. Ah, and that's where they introduced the Pathfinders. Right, okay, I got you. So those guys were generally a lot more green by the looks of it. I'd love to be able to see a bit more of a close-up on those cloaks, because they look like they've got actual like camo. I mean, that guy there, you know how people use like spray paints and grass fronds and things like that on models, on like guns and kit bags and things like that. Those ones there, those scouts, that really does look like they've done something similar to that on those cloaks. So I'd love to get a close-up of those, but I'm gonna have to spend a bit of time searching for that, I reckon. But yeah, I think when we hit back to our main event, you guys can see a little bit closer there what we're planning to do with our Guardian. Obviously that weapon will be highlighted up. I'll probably just use straight Wraithbone and then blend it a little bit to get some shading going. You know, blend it into some highlights. The armor itself, I think we will go for some color. You know, stipple on there, some camouflage patterns, things like that. In fact, I might even so this stuff, Picofoam. Might attempt. Ooh, I wonder if there's any of that left. There is. There's a tiny bit of that left. Let's have a look. Let's see if this will have any effect as to what I'm hoping. nope, it's going to look terrible. So I need smaller amounts of foam, to be honest with you, and probably not do it with contrast paint as well. There's a bit of stuff coming off of it there. As soon as you go for more than one pass, though, unfortunately, it all just blends in together, and then it's like you've just darkened the area. So that's not going to work. That's a shame, but this is an experimental session where we work out exactly what we are going to do with the model. Unfortunately, I probably would have been better if these hadn't been assembled. So we might have to work around that. And the way that we'll work around that is to not do what I was just talking about there. And what we'll do is we will come along with a little bit of this. And a little bit of that. And we'll just see about painting a sort of slightly thinned down darker blue on as shadows into the area where we want some shade. Throw some shade, man. Throw some shade. That we just want to darken certain areas down a little bit. Okay, that actually worked quite well. Let that dry off, and that should hopefully come out quite nicely. And all this is the original colour that we tried, the one that was too dark, thinned down a little bit and then painted on into certain areas where we're hopefully going to make it work as a bit of a shade. We still want certain areas to come up quite light, but I'm just sort of pushing them into the recesses a little bit. Of course, around here we don't really need to because it's already super dark with that really saturated colour. That Talassar blue has come up absolutely lovely here. Right, so that's darkened that up a little bit, which is quite possibly going to be enough to get that the right sort of colour. I might then just need to put a little bit of an edge highlight on it, just in certain areas, just to make it pop, just to push the contrast up a little bit more, which is fine. That's exactly what we were hoping for it to do. I will have to probably go out and buy a blue though. What I have discovered, so I invested heavily into contrast paints when they first came out. I was like, do you know what? I'm finally going to be able to paint all of the armies that I wanted to, and I've never had the time. And the theory behind that is fantastic. It is great. It's a great theory, and I would love if it actually worked. The problem with it is that if you couldn't be bothered to paint with normal paints, you won't be bothered to paint with contrast paints either. And I got distracted. I would do other stuff. I'd be lazy. I wouldn't get around to doing anything. So my painting has been absolutely fits and starts. Pick it up, put it down, pick it up, put it down. I've never been able to get into it until I started streaming. And I just picked up some D&D miniatures one day and said, oh look, you know, I need to paint these for my campaign. Why don't I do them on stream? I was you know, pootling along as a gaming streamer, and I was having good fun. But I just decided and said, yeah, you know what? Let's paint some miniatures on stream. And since then, I've churned out an almost full display cabinet of D&D miniatures, and I'm finally sitting here with models that I've owned for 30 years, going, I'm going to paint these bad boys. They were previously painted. They were painted shit by like 11-year-old me, who thought he was king shit of Turd Mountain. But yeah, streaming really helps. It helps to focus. You put aside a couple of hours. I tend to stream for 2 hours at a time, 5 nights a week, but 2 hours at a time. That's a solid 10 hours a week painting time. And I know there's chatting and talking and all the rest of it, but I'm really enjoying this, which is great for me. Hopefully you guys enjoy it too. You know, we've had a nice little session here where we're experimenting, playing around with some colours, you know, rapidly depleting my stocks of pre-undercoated plastic Guardians. We've only got a couple of them left, but we have, I think, no, I tell a lie, what we haven't done yet, that looks pretty much dry enough to me, and I've got a couple of minutes left on the stream. Let's see if we can get a coat on his helmet of the other yellow, and see if we can get a coat on his gun, and then we will in effect be a decision made about what our colour scheme will be going forwards. Now I'm going to be quite careful not to get the blue up onto the helmet this time round. Look at that, showing superior levels of brush control to 20 minutes ago, me. Oh, what a noob he was 20 minutes ago, me. Can't stand that guy anymore. Right, pop that round there a little bit. We're even going to go way out on a limb, because this is on a limb, and paint this bit as well, just because that would probably be yellow too. But oh, did I just catch a bit of white blue there? Right, we'll let that dry, not for long though. And then we're just going to break out Skeleton Horde again and paint in the gun, and then we'll have basically a test miniature done. And what I'll do is I'll chuck all of these up on the Discord and Insta, and if any of you want to have a look and go, oh yeah, that's actually not bad, then feel free to pop a comment on. So that will mean joining the Discord. Links are down below. Follow me on Instagram. There is no Warhammer content on there whatsoever yet, so this will be the first post that goes up on there. I've got a few of my D&D miniatures, but literally, even though we've been painting them for, God, I've forgotten, probably a month or so now. Mort Moriarty, thank you very much for the follow, very much appreciated, my man. Yeah, this will be some of the first Games Workshop content that's on there, and I'll let you guys have a little look at how these came out. And that'll give us a good idea about what this is going to look like as a project. I'll tell you what, I'm quite liking that. It's very basic at the moment, but that's a really good basis to work up from, I think. That has pretty much, apart from some brown for, you know, leather and stuff like that. Hey man, I appreciate that. Welcome to the chat, first time in the chat, and I very much appreciate the follow as well. Helps me immensely as I grow the channel. It's been really nice to find my feet in the sort of miniatures and models category, which has been such a welcoming community. You know, meeting people and chatting to people like Badger, who are just, you know, salt of the earth hobbyists. It's so nice to sort of find a little community that's really, really nice. So anyway, we're pretty much at the end of the stream. I am going to take a few pictures of these, but I probably won't take them tonight. I'm going to let these dry off, and then when I get in from work tomorrow, I will bash through a couple of pictures, get a quick upload to Instagram and to the Discord, and you guys can see how these three different examples. I'm going to ignore this one. This one was just a bit, I mean, I quite like the light blue, but it's just a bit too washed out, desaturated. It's not very good. We can have a splash around with how these look. Yeah, so I'll post them up and we'll see which one is the best sort of option. Anyway, when I finish a stream with a few viewers, I do rather like to try and raid out, because it's only the polite thing to do. I hope that you guys have enjoyed the stream. If you have, those of you who've already followed, really appreciate that. Anybody else who wants to pop us a follow, please do so. Like I say, drop into the Discord or the Instagram, and hopefully you've got a little bit of stamina left in you guys, that you might want to watch. And so you've seen my fists of ham and fingers of butter attempt at painting models, and I would really like to show you guys how it should be done. So please do stick around to raid out with Ren Temple. Thanks very much, folks, and good night.